Before meeting with Trump, Zelenskyy criticized White House policy. America's dialogue with Russians today sounds like a warm conversation, and it's unlikely to make Putin stop war. Putin declared his readiness to fight forever. Do you know what the main idea of today for Russia is? Immortality. While Europe is showing strength towards Putin, more pressure on Russia is needed to achieve a lasting peace. We call on all G7 partners to join this cause. Europe is fully committed to putting Ukraine in a position of strength. Thanks for your likes and comments, friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because here you will find a lot of interesting content. U.S. President Donald Trump will meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy on the margins of the G7 summit. A Trump official confirmed to White House reporters that he'll hold only 3 full bilateral meetings. These will be talks with the Prime Minister of Canada, as well as the President of Mexico. The U.S. President may hold one-on-one meetings on the margins of the summit, however, less complete than the full two-sided format. Trump and Zelenskyy will meet at the G7 summit, where boosting pressure on Russia will be a key theme. G7 leaders will discuss further sanctions against Russia if Putin does not agree to negotiate a ceasefire against Ukraine. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer told Sky News the summit offers a key chance to discuss global security with allies. Starmer said sanctions on Russia will be discussed at the G7 summit if Moscow refuses to negotiate. The British Prime Minister also said he has a good relationship with U.S. President Donald Trump, which is important for resolving conflicts, including the Russia-Ukraine war and fighting between Israel and Iran. European countries have called on Trump to clarify his stance, as his recent actions and statements have raised concerns about his grasp of global realities. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy also said he wanted to check with Trump at the G7 summit about how close the prospect of new sanctions against Russia was. There's a sense that most Americans support tough measures against Putin, but Trump is seen as the main obstacle. Before meeting the U.S. president, Zelenskyy criticized the White House's approach, saying warm words won't stop Putin's war in Ukraine. What message do you want to send to the Trump administration about containing Putin? Putin wants Ukraine as he envisions it, definitely not an independent European country. So Trump is capable of stopping him if Putin loses money. If he loses revenue, he will not be able to increase the army and military spending. Internal problems will start. That's the point of sanctions and diplomacy. And like it or not, Trump is the U.S. president. He has a duty to confront global aggressors, Putin among the most dangerous. Tell me, is the Trump administration responding to your messaging and your signals? Sanctions were acknowledged. At the Vatican meeting with Trump, we covered banks, the shadow fleet, and oil prices. It's critical for us to keep Russia's energy prices down. That's its main income. We see Israel hitting Iran, oil prices going up. It's not just our events in Europe, it all affects security. The price of Russian oil remains the key lever. Comprehensive sanctions are just the start, while U.S.-Russia talks still feel overly cordial. You can't stop Putin with that tone of voice. He likes it all. The tone should be tougher. He should realize that America will go all the way and support Ukraine. Sanctions, support for the Ukrainian army, all these signals that aid is being cut, that we are being put on the same level as the aggressor. This is humiliating and unfair. The message should be clear. If Putin does not end the war, there will be the toughest possible sanctions. If he doesn't return the kidnapped children, Russia becomes a terrorist state. The U.S. Congress must acknowledge this. Ukraine needs arms to endure and secure peace, for the sake of all Europe's security. Trump appears out of step with global calls to cut the Russian oil price cap. While the U.S. holds firm, the EU and UK push for a $45 ceiling to squeeze Putin's revenues. And here I just want to remind you of what Trump said last year, even before he became President of the United States. Trump sharply criticized Biden for keeping oil prices high while arming Ukraine, claiming Putin would halt the war if oil dropped to $40 a barrel. Now Russia has a problem with this administration. They don't respect this administration. And we need to find common ground because we cannot have a third world war. We're going to get into it, just like we never should have let Russia invade. This would never have happened if the country had been run by a competent person. That wouldn't have happened, Trump said, blaming the rhetoric, not Biden, for provoking an invasion, while insisting he had warned of it all along. Stupid rhetoric. But there would have been no invasion. Oil was cheap then. It's almost $100 a barrel now, and that's it for Putin. At $100 a barrel war works, and at $40 it won't work at all. Why, after becoming president, did Trump abandon the basic truths he once endorsed? That remains a mystery. In any case, Putin now feels more free than ever in his terrorist actions, and therefore multiplies the terror of peaceful Ukrainian cities. And declared that in fact Russia's goal is to fight forever, because according to Putin, that is how Russia gains immortality. Do you know what is the main idea of today for Russia? In immortality, and maybe it has to do not only with today, but with Russia in general. Immortality of the Russian people and Russia, and our common statehood of 1,000 years. Our country goes through some very difficult trials from time to time. And this immortality is expressed in the victories of our country. In this regard, I would like to note that the road to victory is paved by people like you and your combat comrades, those who right now, as no one else understands it, are honorably fulfilling their duty to their motherland on the line of contact. And the only thing that's heartening right now is the extent to which Europe is uniting amid the threat from Moscow. They know if Ukraine falls, they could be next. Seeing Trump as weak, Europe insists only force can halt Kremlin aggression. At the G7 summit, European Commission head Ursula von der Leyen urged partners to push for a ceasefire and unveiled new sanctions on Moscow. In 2002, the G7 countries met here in the G8 format. At that time, Russia was still sitting at the table and supposedly seeking rapprochement with the West. What then seemed a chance for peace, as we now realize, turned out to be a huge illusion. 2 decades later, the world stands at a turning point. Wars that seemed already part of history are once again upon us. And the global landscape is increasingly shaped by geopolitical rivalries. That is why this summit will focus on geoeconomics and geopolitics. We are here to talk about the deep instability and turbulence of a global economy that has already endured 2 decades of turmoil. From the global financial crisis to post-kowtowing inflation to the Russia-induced energy shock. Global trade tensions continue today. Risks have become not abstract but quite tangible and escalating. Uncertainty stalls companies from investing, while households curb spending amid fears of inflation. We need a frank conversation among the G7 countries to bring back a sense of stability and predictability. We are closely connected, which means that risk management must be joint. We must keep trade fair, predictable, and open. We all need to avoid protectionism. This is an important signal. Together, we must focus on real and structural challenges. Zelenskyy is expected shortly and has signaled openness to an unconditional ceasefire. Putin has stepped up attacks on Ukraine. More pressure on Russia is needed to achieve lasting peace. For the sake of a real truce, bringing Russia back to the negotiating table and ending this war. Sanctions play a key role. Thanks to the G7 and EU measures, Russia's oil and gas revenues have fallen significantly. The sanctions are working. Last week, the draft 18th package of sanctions was presented. We call on all partners to join this effort. Europe is fully committed to the goal of putting Ukraine in a position of strength. That's the end of the episode. Thank you for watching. Share your opinions about what you have seen in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.